Hmm.
There we go. All right. So, Ragna, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Raghna. I play bar. I like bar. I try to get involved in the game design as well. I'm on the GDT, and I'm 34. I'm European. Ask away. I'm an open book. You can always ask me anything, and I'll try to answer as honestly and straightforward as possible.
That's very nice of you. That's very nice of you. Over to you, Requiem.
Wow. If you're an open book, then tell us where the name Ragnar came from.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was 12. Yeah, that's the context. And I just thought Viking Apocalypse sounded pretty epic and cool. And I started with Ragnarok, and then it got shortened to Ragnar. And then yeah, I got kind of like everyone knew each other in the old community when we were playing. So I thought of keeping it, even though it was a bit childish. But the fact that we all know each other, I really enjoyed keeping that kind of setting about it.
Well, there's no X's in it, so it's not that childish.
Okay, Ragnar. So, how did you get involved with bar? How did it all started for you, all the way back in the beginning?
Yeah, so well, I mean, I played Total Annihilation as a kid, as a lot of old timers did, and then there was a game that was called Absolute Annihilation. It was like a remake of Total Annihilation, like I don't know, 18 years ago now. A friend at school actually thought, oh, this is a pretty cool game, and I checked it out, and I started playing it like a lot, because it was better than every other RTS out there, and Absolute Annihilation became Balanced Annihilation, and that was like the main game for me for like most of my time as a gamer, alternating with other games, of course. And then some really cool people thought, hey, let's like turn this up a notch, and made yeah, Beyond All Reason, as inspired from and taking a lot of ideas from
Mm.
not only balance annihilation and tonal narration and so on, but trying to make it sleek and nice. And I was just immediately on board from the very beginning. And yeah, I don't know, it's just so awesome. So how could I say no to that, right?
Indeed, indeed.
Speaking
Um,
of bar, what would you say is your favorite unit?
Cool favorite unit. I mean, I like Commander. Commander's pretty cool. It's maybe my favorite unit. If I can't choose the Commander, probably the Gunslinger. Just because you can micro it like almost infinitely
yeah.
to great effects. Yeah.
Ah, an ARM fan. Ah.
I wouldn't categorize myself as an ARM fan, but I think the Gunslinger is just such a fun unit to use, I think, in general.
Okay.
Especially, he needs a cowboy hat, though.
Yeah, yeehaw.
So, I know that you're on a pretty high level that you're playing right now, but I think you still have like a favorite role you would perform in a game. Would you choose like a favorite frontline position? Maybe you would like to be more in the back and be the eco guy, or what's your favorite role in a bar game usually?
So I guess I have some thoughts on that. For one, I like to win, and I try to assess what is best in the game, depending on the meta and depending on what other players are doing. And I find players are very greedy in the competitive scene. They try to get ahead and like win late game through,
Mm.
get really greedy, and then I feel like punishing that by being like overly aggressive on the front line. I think it's generally really strong to be aggressive, and I enjoy that. I enjoy that kind of gameplay. But also, I think you end up specializing in something. I think if you play a lot one type of style, like air or eco or front or whatever, you start getting better and better in that specific role. And I think I would enjoy switching to like another role and start doing something else more. But I would need to put in like a lot of hours to really get at a decent level at that. So for now, while I would enjoy other roles, I'm mostly focused on like the aggressive front line. Yeah.
Not that
Okay.
this is necessarily a question that we plan to ask or anything like that, but When it comes to new players, what role would you recommend they try first?
That's tough, right? I mean, new can mean a lot of things, right? New to RTS versus has played a lot of Supreme Commander and is just joining here. It's a
So,
very different kind of new, right?
so let's say they've gone through the scenarios, they've played some single player stuff, but it's their first like few online multiplayer games, but they know how to do the basic, economy and stuff. Where should someone start if they're jumping into their very first 8v8?
I think first of all they should like be make sure that they have a thick skin and not mind people like being upset at them, because I mean, unfortunately that still happens. But still, I think 1v1 is very daunting and seems scary to do, but I think if you want to have good habits and learn like how to play well as quickly as possible and like get into the right habits straight away, 1v1 probably helps you the most with that. Even though I'm not sure I would straightly go into 1v1 just because like it seems scary to do, right? But it will teach you a little bit of everything, because you have to be able to do everything by yourself in a 1v1, right?
Yeah, you can't rely on someone else to have your back.
But it's important to find someone of your own skill level, because if you play someone way better than you, you're not
You get
learning
carried.
anything at all. You're not even learning anything, because if you just get smashed by someone, you don't even know what you did wrong,
Yeah, I think it's also something nice about the community. You're always you don't have to look far for somebody who helps you, who wants to watch your replay, maybe give you a few
Yeah.
pointers or whatever, even during the game, in maybe some toxic way. Hey, what the hell are you doing, dude? You need to do that. That's also, of course.
No,
awesome.
there's the Academy channel in the Discord, and like people are super helpful there. You can post your replays, you can ask questions, and people will like put in time just out of nowhere just to help you, try to help you get better. It's really nice, actually.
It's funny you mention it, because Requiem made me remove my questions about the academy, but it's all good. For your information, the academy is a part of the Discord where you can ask questions and get information on it. Maybe Requiem, you are academy manager in this case. Could you give us a bit more information about your role in that, how it all started, and how it's going right now?
So initially, the Bar Academy thing came along because obviously Bar doesn't have a tutorial at the moment, which is a bit of a problem, to be frank. And we needed a way of helping people get into the game. Obviously, I create YouTube tutorials about the game, but there's only so much you can put in a video, and some people learn better either face to face or over a voice call or just even in text replies. So we created the Academy program where some experienced people could get in and basically help new people do through replay reviews or just helpful comments in the thing.
Yeah.
But on top of that, there's also occasionally, not so much these days, but there's what's called clinics. And with those clinics is basically you get everyone who wants to be involved in a room. And I think the last one was actually did by Barcast, where he went through 1v1s and basically just went, here is a blueprint ish of what you need to be successful in a 1v1. These are the things you need to think about. And then he put the players against each other and kind of looked at them, said, right, you're doing this really well, but you need to improve on this, and so on, to try and help everyone get better. And yeah, it's been really successful. Everyone there is obviously all volunteers of, relatively high skill that's been around for a while. And yeah, just anytime they've got free, they look at people's replays and try and help out.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's actually awesome. I think one of the pros about this community and about the game in general is that there's a lot to be learned about it. The learning curve is quite steep. I think we can all agree. But there is plenty of people who are willing to help. You have a lot of tutorials on YouTube. like because you make those tubes, Requiem, but also just asking around or going on the Discord, asking people there, actually also going to the Discord Academy portion of the Discord and asking questions over there. It's great. It's awesome. The community is such a lovely thing about Bar. It's incredible. Really, I must say I haven't seen that much in games. Such a nice group of people who can, of course, have their moments, like we all do. I think that's completely normal. But it's quite nice. Yeah, it's quite lovely, and I think it's also good to see that you, Requiem, who originally didn't really have that much to do with the game, actually had an opportunity to do such a thing. To start such a thing, to get those responsibilities within a game. It's also something very special, what you don't see every day. I don't think you can play a game and also actually participate in the development and in the marketing or the promo or whatever the fuck you want. That's also something that I really much enjoy about this community.
Yes, one of the major selling points of open source project. It's just
Indeed.
if you want to contribute, then they're welcome to contribute however you can.
You're free to do so. All right, so Ragnar, back to you for a moment. You are a bar contributor. You have that role in the Discord. Could you please tell us in which ways you contribute to the development of bar and give us a bit of information on that?
Yeah, it all started with me trying to re-implement a really old game mode, which was unbalanced commanders, which was like some funky, weird game mode. Basically, I enjoyed trying that out, and
I tried it a few times.
Me programming. I think they renamed it now to EvilCom, and it's going in a
Indeed.
different direction. I think it's really cool that anyone can just pick something up like that and try it out. Like you were saying, this is amazing. I feel like, and it teaches you people how to code, how like myself, or to do all sorts of things. And then I am now part of the game design team.
Okay.
So what we do is that when there's decisions, because okay, anyone can contribute, but then there needs to be a direction. We need to agree on okay, this we're going to include in the game, or this direction we're going with the game, or something like that. So there's 5 of us now who weekly meet on this and spend some time on discussing all the issues and vote eventually on which direction we're going with it with the team.
Cool.
Like
and then I did some rework with the commander. I reworked the commander a little bit, and then now I'm trying to help out a bit with the air rework as well to push that forward a little bit.
Yeah.
Tried that. Did like it. Did like the
changes. It needs a huge amount of work. I think bar is so incredibly delicate, when it comes to balance, when it comes to what is fun and not. It's so easy to go over the top at something, and then if you need to do a complete rework, that's really it takes a lot of time and effort. Yeah.
Completely. Just talking about balance. Are you aware of a different game entirely? It's called Helldivers 2. Have you heard of that game?
I've heard of it. I haven't played it.
So basically, they have it's going in a different trajectory now. But there was a lot of negative backlash about that game because whenever people found things they enjoyed that were overpowered, they ended up getting nerfed. Yeah. So how is Bar taking their balancing in a way that it's not necessarily going to nerf everything, but bring up the weak stuff in line? Is that the sort of plan, or is it just kind of a?
Also, I mean, there's as many opinions as there's players, right? I think everyone has a different view, and that's really difficult to then align and to do something that everyone. It's impossible to do anything that everyone will like or agree upon. So I have my personal idea about this, and I definitely think that lots of tweaking, we'll add 5% here, or we'll remove 10 here. It doesn't really serve the purpose of trying to balance the game, because I think a lot is also meta. people will copy what other players are doing, and especially like some better players, and then that will kind of like give the impression that something is overpowered. But maybe there's also an issue where, okay, maybe something is not that strong, but it's easy to execute, and then something else that is difficult to execute is much stronger than that, but it's so difficult to execute that it is imbalanced in that way. So that's like super tough to balance. But I think that this idea of like nerfing everything that is strong is not the approach to take. Like, yeah, I mean, having things be powerful feels really cool and fun to play with. Like that's the fun, right? To destroy shit. My influence, and as limited as that is, I try to caution against this idea of nerfing anything anytime anything comes up that is perceived as strong. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I've been playing now for a while, and I don't have a feeling like, okay, they have nerfed something completely to the ground, you know? The changes that have been recently made, like for example with the commander not being able to be transported, or actually having the options to change that, it's a testament to how they are improving the game, you know? They are listening to us, to everybody, and looking at that feedback, but also, like you say, not taking every little detail, nerfing that to the ground, and keeping a certain meta alive. I think they are very well aware of that, those metas, and in some maps and in some tactics, they are maybe a bit over OP as well. But I don't think that's not. How can you avoid that on the amount of maps you have now, on the amount of units you have? There's bound to be some combinations, and maybe also.
Extremely good point you have there. The map has a huge impact on the balance of units. Like if you play small map or a big map, just completely different units are strong or weak depending on that. So I mean, I think people are very reactionary. You know, like, oh, I was beaten by this, so that is too strong. But I mean, I'm not going to go too far into that. But yeah, that's my personal opinion on it. Yeah.
Yeah, we can go on for quite a bit on that, I think. Yeah. Sorry?
I said OP things change. Like it was only like maybe a year or so ago, and hounds were OP, and then then grunts OP. Now it's ticks OP.
Ticks, yeah.
It's always going to be something will be OP. It's just
That's the way it is.
That's the way it is. Yeah.
Mm, mm, mm.
So Ragnar, you talked about you played TA and Balanced Annihilation before Bar. Were there any other RTSs that you've played?
Most of them, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I played. I think the ones I played the most were probably like Age of Empires 2. I played like a lot of Age of Empires 2. I played a decent amount of StarCraft. I played like the RTS adjacent games, like the grand strategy games, the simulation games, the tactics games, and so on. But yeah, I mean, if you can name an RTS, I probably played it. Yeah.
I can take a shot at that. What about Dune, the original Dune game? That's my first RTS experience.
I did, and I even enjoyed even more the other Dune game. I think it was called Dune 2, where it was like a mix of RPG and RTS, which I thought was like super
I didn't
cool.
really like that. I was more of the RTS fan, and well, of course, Command and Conquer that came shortly after that one, and it's completely inspired by that. But still, until the day when I think about it, and I can still hear the little female voice go, "Dead hand approaching." It's like it still gives me shivers, you know. I don't know. That's maybe just because I'm weird.
I've got two that you've probably never played.
Ooh, hit me.
Warzone 2100.
You got me there.
My brother played that, but I didn't play it.
And then Populous the Beginning.
I did Populous. I did Populous.
Okay. Populous was amazing. I played that a lot, actually. Yeah, this is really cool game.
You can still get GOG, which is surprising.
It is. GOG is amazing, by the way, for these old games. Yeah, Populous was actually really fun, and what I really liked about it is it was so innovative, and still today. Like, I mean, you release Populous today, and it still feels like such a fresh game that like you don't see any other game saying any like it. So like, really props to that.
So back to bar maybe for a second. Are there like any gameplay mechanics you are currently working on to improve your own game? Not necessarily the general development started, but your own personal game that you're saying, okay, that is maybe something I need to work on. Is there something like that you're working on right now?
There's always something you can improve,
Yeah.
but
But still,
yeah, when I'm
you mastered pretty much most of the aspects, right?
mastering, I mean, when do you really master something, right? I mean, like I was mentioning
When you
earlier,
have 56 OS before your name, for example.
when you were talking earlier about the roles, I guess at some point I would like to get back into like the macro game. I used to mostly or almost only play macro game and balance annihilation a really long time ago, and I used to like do mostly that style, and I moved away from it. And I think it's good to learn it even if you're not playing it, because you get used to like the
Yeah.
timings and when you can expect what from the enemy and so on, or when you need to switch. Sometimes you just need to switch for X, Y, Z reason. So maybe I'd like to get more into that. Yeah,
All
If
right.
there's one mechanic in bar,
mechanic.
what would you change? Like one thing you can change, one mechanic you could change, what would it be?
Requiem with a difficult question.
It's tough because I mean, by design and bar, if there's something I can change, I argue for it and like, hey guys, let's change that. Yeah, right. So I've tried that to a degree, and there's a big thing that I personally drove for the change, which was like the commander thing. So I already kind of did that. Like I already did that with the commanders. They could deacon each other and like they could chain explodes. I thought that was outrageous, and it kind of I'm happy that that's been changed. Yeah.
It definitely changed a lot of the 1v1 kind of play style of, people would just walk up and degun an LLT you're building. Now it's all about body blocking it, and it's a whole completely different play style as how it used to be. So that's a very good change, in my opinion.
Well, also like the self-D commander for metal is diminished a lot, which is kind of awkward, like to explain to a new player, like, oh, kill your main guy so you can get its metal was a little bit odd, though, I would say. And the problem I had with it mostly is not that it existed, but it was a must. You had to do it. And now it's kind of like on the edge where like you can do it, and it gives you like a small advantage, but also there's an advantage to not doing it.
Yeah, I did try and push for like rather than it self-destructing, like it would power down instead and then generate more metal.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's one of those things. It's like easy to just suggest something, but I can't code, so I can't implement it. So
Yeah.
So maybe something completely else, but do you have any new maybe tips and tricks or pointers or hints for newly starting bar players? Because we've seen quite a bit of an influx lately, I think, in on that matter. So maybe there's quite a bit of guys out there that wonder from one of the best, and maybe you can give us some pointers or tell them what they should focus on in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, but it depends what you want to get good at, right? If you want to get good at like Glitter's game, or if you want
Well,
to
you
be good at
gotta start
1v1,
somewhere, right?
or
So you do have to, when I used to start playing bar, I heard you have to go play in Glitters and in Supreme, in those two things, because Supreme is very specific on the role where you play, and it teaches you a certain mechanic in the game, and I think Glitters as well, with the air side and the eco side and the rest all frontline, that's really defined. I think that's why those two maps are really played a lot. But there are advantages to that, right? To just playing those maps in the beginning, because after a while, I did my first few steps on different maps, and I kid you not, I started all the way back at the beginning. It was like I was new again. It was this is a different game now. What?
Yeah,
So
absolutely, it is. No, but it really feels that way, and that's why I kind of said about the 1v1, because with Glitters, I think it's a lot easier to get into. So if you're not super competitive and you want something like easy to start, and like you just want some casual, like Wednesday afternoon fun, or whichever, play Glitters, play straights, and like no no disrespect towards that, right? Like everyone has their own fun, and you should do what's fun to you. But if you're really looking to be competitive and try to be number one and play tournaments and everything like that, I would really advocate for 1v1.
Okay.
I feel like that really teaches you a sort of a different mindset of like you're responsible for everything in 1v1. Whereas in glitters and straight, you have your very limited responsibility, and you don't have to worry too much, and it's much easier to go from higher responsibility to lower responsibility than the other way around. And then if you have the less responsibility, you have certain habits, you create a certain like way of thinking, and then when you go to the 1v1, it's easy to become overwhelmed suddenly and to lose focus on what you have to do.
It's not only that as well. You could say that with a 1v1, all the responsibility, like you said, it's on you. Whereas if you lose in an 8v8, you can be like, well, it wasn't my fault, someone else lost. And then you're not going to improve yourself because you're just going to blame everyone else. So
it's a personality thing too, yeah.
Yeah, true. What I would say is that what I see a lot of people doing is just jump into an 8v8. I know that's tempting because that's what you're seeing and that's what everybody is doing, but I think that your first maybe 10 or 20 games should be versus the AI in bar. Even if you have some StarCraft experience or other RTS experience, I think it's very helpful if you spend your first 2 or 3 hours in this game not in a lobby and not annoying a lot of people in there, I think it also will help you first game, because I think, people want to play this game, people download it, and people jump into a lobby, and people uninstall it half an hour later because they say this is way too difficult, or this is not what I expected it to be. I think if there's a different way of handling first new players, I think the declination or like the first the continuation of wanting to play it would be enforced by using maybe more scenarios or more a story-based line in the beginning to like teach you the game. I think you see that a lot in other RTS games as well. If you look at Command and Conquer and other games, okay, Total Annihilation is a bad example, but if you look at Command and Conquer, you learn your first moves against an AI, and maybe in final games or when you get good, you start to play against. So I think I would say to new players, don't immediately jump into an 8v8. Don't get disappointed right away. Maybe first win a few AI matches.
What is like Requiem said, there's the scenarios that do teach you like a lot of the basics of the game and step by step and everything like that.
But still, after doing this and then going into a battlefield versus 7 or 8 other guys, I don't know.
I would disagree.
Okay.
For the reason being, I think it's purely down to communication. If you go into a game and you say in chat, "Hi team, just so you know, this is my first online game. Please help me out where you can." And people will be willing to go like, right, well, this is what you need to do. You need to push forward. You need to send units, concentrate on building units or something like that. It's all about that communication. If you go into an 8v8 as your first game, don't say anything. People are going to presume you have an idea of what you're doing. And then when you then don't fulfill what other people expect of you, because it's a team game after all in an 8v8.
It's expectations, yeah.
That's when people are like, well, what are you doing? Yeah. And people can get heated. So it's all about that communication. If you're new to bar, just be open about it. Say you're new, and people will be willing to help.
And be open about it, If people are then saying to you, you are on the air spot, stop making that air lap and make a bot lap, do that, of course. That helps.
Yeah, but maybe you should not be expected to make air on your first online game.
You never know where you spawn. You have 8 spots in glitters. Maybe you're unlucky and they give you the air spot. It happens. It happens, right?
But if you say that to begin with, quite often people are willing to unlock and switch with you.
Yeah. And switch positions. Yeah.
Yeah. Like now, the fact that you can unlock your lock, because it used to be as soon as you click that button, that's it. You're screwed. Now you can unlock it. You can always change. Just that communication.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So I think the last question for this segment, Raghna, just to top it off, what was the first video game you ever played as a youngster?
It was on MS-DOS.
Really?
It
MS DOS? Jesus.
must have been something like Prince of Persia, or maybe okay, either MS-DOS, Prince of Persia, or something on the Sega Mega Drive or Master System, like Sonic the Hedgehog or something. I was too small to remember. I'll tell you, I had like much older brothers than me. And they were really interested in computers and everything like that. So from a very very young age, I was already playing computer games from before I remember.
You know what's funny? I'm the same age as you, but my first video game is a lot older than that.
Oh yeah, really? What were you doing? What were you
Uh,
doing with your time before video games?
It was it's on a ZX Spectrum, which used to use like tapes
Yeah.
to play stuff, and it was the bartender game. We slide beers down a bar table, and you got to move up and down and serve beers. That was the very, very first game that I played.
Great. Well, my first experience with the game was with my doctor's office. Actually, that was a Macintosh, and it was also Prince of Persia on there. That was one of my first real games. I was, I think, maybe 5 or 6 years old, and I had my doctor's office right in my street, so I just could walk over there. Shouldn't even cross the street, and I could go play some games over there at my doctor's office while he was treating the sick people. I was there. All right. Okay, so boys, that ends the first part. The next segment is about the tournament. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click stop recording right now. So I have 3 different sections. That makes it a little bit easier for me.